Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of SPL Express, and it's a very special edition as we reach the halfway point of the SPL season so far. But before that, let's quickly run through what's happened in match week 14. On Saturday, we saw Geylang International string back-to-back wins for the first time this season as they beat 𝘀𝗲𝗃𝗃𝗃 2-0. Sunday saw the Lion City Sailors run riot at the Jurong East Stadium, beating Tanjong Pagar 6-0. Monday saw Albrechts Negata survive a late charge from Tampines Rovers, pipping them to a 3-2 win. And Hougang United returned from the AFC Cup to winning ways in the SPL, beating Young Lions 4-0. And after 14 match weeks, here's a look at the standings in the SPL. The Lion City Sailors continue their reign at the top of the league, 6 points ahead of Albrechts Negata. Tanjong Pagar remain third on 22 points. Geylang International, meanwhile, climb up to 6th in the table, level on points with 𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃 with 13 points, and they trail 5th place Hougang United by 3 points. So as I mentioned before, this is the halfway mark of the Singapore Premier League this season. And to talk about what's transpired over the last half of the season, we have regular SPL commentator and pundit Shasi Kumar, Jerome Douglas, who's a football content creator here in Singapore, and Sazali Abdul Aziz, correspondent with The Straits Times. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Let's dive straight into it. Which team would you say have been the most impressive after 14 weeks of football in the SPL?
Well, I think if you really look at the table and based on just stats alone, then I think you would say Lion City Sailors and Albrechts as well. You know, and if I have to just pick another team to be the most impressive teams so far, it could be Tanjong Pagar.
I asked for one though, so
but
out of the three.
No, I'm just going to say if I have to pick one, you know, I think I'm going for LCS. You know, I think with the money that they've spent, you know, people might say that it is a given, right, to be up there and to be the most impressive. But they've got to go out there, still do the job, and I think they've done an impressive job. And you know, the last game is testament to whatever they've been building on. You know, the way they played, you know, the opponents off the park in that game. Although you know, a weaker opponent, but you know, great performance.
Yeah, it's really hard to look past the Sailors as the team that has performed the best so far. You know, like Shasi mentioned, maybe people are saying they basically delivered, you know, what they promised on paper, but and as he will tell you also as a former coach himself in the Premier League, Singapore Premier League, it's not always straightforward. You know, you don't have the 100% guarantee that what you line up on paper will deliver on the pitch. But the Sailors have been playing some breathtaking football. Lestienne and Diego Lopez have been the two foreign stars who have really shown in the last few weeks, and obviously the local players have also stepped up to the plate, and they've really played some very, very good football.
I mean, Sailors, obviously, as you mentioned, they have the quality. But what about like a team you mentioned earlier as well, Tanjong Pagar? Because nobody would have expected where they are at the table right now.
I mean, for Tanjong Pagar wise, I mean, already now 14 games in, 22 points, that already equals the 21 game season that they had last year. So, I mean, honestly, fantastic. And 4 defeats, I mean, 3 of them against LCS, 2 of them against LCS, 1 against Geylang, unfortunate that one, and 1 against Albrechts. So, I mean, the defeats did come against all the top teams in the league. So, I mean, really, they do have also Ryo Nishiguchi up front as well, who is absolutely fantastic, who we'll talk about later.
Well, Jerome has got his stats on point there. But yeah, you know, I think really looking to Tanjong Pagar, they've like punched above their weight. You know, I think with the budget they are on, you know, they're going in, week out, and they are just like, you know, a headache that doesn't go away, right? They're still in there after, you know, you count them out and then they're out there. You take away the last game where they totally, you know, collapsed in that game. You know, we can talk about the lineup and stuff like that, but still, you know, I think they've been impressive. And you know, I think another point about Tanjong Pagar is also the fact that they make no bones about the way they play. They are not going out there and they're not going to tell you that they are going to play pretty football. You know, they make no bones about that. They're going out there to play effective football with the players that they've got.
Yeah, and they remind me a bit of, you know, the late Darren Stewart's 𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 team almost. You know, you know they're going to fight for every ball in every game, and you know, that's why you can never count Tanjong Pagar, and that's one of the things that I love the most about this Tanjong Pagar side. You know, at the start of every game, you never, you know, at the before kickoff, you never look at the lineups, or you look at the players lining up on the pitch, and you think, oh, you know, I think they're gonna, you know, not put in, you know.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate here, especially going back to what happened in the last game, which was where perhaps it was a bit disappointing because they've been so impressive this season. They fielded a team which excluded the 3 key players against the Sailors. I mean, what do you make of that decision? Because they had been doing so well up to that point.
Well, they obviously had their reasons. I think Hazrin came out and said they wanted to rest the players for the coming game, which is against 𝘀𝗻𝗃, another top team. So we don't know exactly which team they will put out. But take that away, I think the previous game they lost as well, and then now again they've lost this game and they've got 𝘀𝗻𝗃. So 3 games in a row. If they do lose this one, the wheels might just come off. But having said that, I think they've got a very good bunch of officials there as a team. Hazrin, Nur Alam Shah, Herman, and the works that they work together. And Hazrin has been telling me as well they've got a very good setup there. So I think they're just banking on the teamwork, hard work, and things like that. But at the end of the day, you spoke about Ryo Nishiguchi, a player that can make a difference if called upon, and I think he has been absolutely brilliant for them.
We'll talk about the strikers a bit later on, about those who are blazing the goal-scoring charts. But let's talk about the team which have been underwhelming in your opinion. Jerome, what if you had to say one team which has been disappointing in the first half of the season?
I mean, for me, it has to be 𝘀𝗃𝗃 because coming into this season, they made changes to the back room and also to the players as well. The first 7 games they did pretty well, but after that, the next 7 games, 5 goals in 7 games. That's the thing, and basically it's been dropping. When the Japanese players don't score, where are the goals going to come from? Because their second, after Kondo, basically the next goal scorer is Ensa Bruncevic, which is crazy.
For 𝘀𝗃𝗃, I think it's a bit of a strange situation. When I look at their situation, they have the players up front as you mentioned, but they have problems from a goal. They have decent players in defense as well. They got experienced hits like Delwinder, Madhu recently joining the team, of course. Ensa is a very good defender as well. But they are shipping goals as well. And I feel, ironically, their problem is in the middle. Because I look at every lineup they put out and sometimes in games, I feel they're very light in the middle, and that's why I guess they have problems at both ends of the pitch, ironically, because their problems lie in the middle.
The transition just doesn't work for them, unfortunately. There's no one to really link up the play.
What about Shasi? Go on.
Agreed with 𝘀𝗀𝗃𝗃, but I think one set of supporters won't be liking me after this. The Hougang Hools. I think the most disappointing, in my view at least, is Hougang. And we can talk about Geylang as well. But I think with the quality that Hougang has, with the players and the quality that they've got, player personnel and individual brilliance, I think they've been disappointing, and they're sitting, I don't know, Jerome will tell us with his stats, but, they've conceded one of the, they've got one of the worst defenses, and listen, I don't think they are playing as a team. They've got the players, they've got the quality in there, but something seems like it's not clicking anymore. And I've always said this, football-wise, I think in transition, they are poor. In attack, they're fine, but once they lose the ball, and when they start defending on the counter, we see players walking. We see only a back 4 working against maybe an opponent of 6 players attacking. So I think that's the problem for them, and something is not clicking at Hougang at the moment.
In the same vein as Shasi's critique of Hougang, I have to say, maybe disappointment is a bit of a strong word, but I expected more from Tampines. At the start of the season when they signed Shuya, I thought Shuya was going to be a great fit for them in centre defence. He was a cornerstone of the 𝘀𝗃𝗃's backline the previous season. They've got in a lot of good youngsters, and we know how well Gavin works with youngsters, and he can get the best out of them. And they brought in a couple of decent signings as well, like Chris Van Huysen. So I really thought, and they have a proven goal scorer up front in Kopitovic. So everything seemed to be, set for them to have a good tilt at the title. But now, they've lost a third of their games so far. They didn't have a good AFC Cup campaign, and it's going to be a real challenge for Gavin to lift the boys' spirits up for the rest of the season.
What's interesting about Tampines, we watch the games, they dominate the game, they have possession, they create chances, but they just can't finish the game off. Shasi, as a former coach, is it down to mentality? Is it down to coaching? What is it? What is the issue there?
No, I think they lack a main personnel, which is the defensive mid. I think in the middle of the park, they've got Kyoga, they've got Mehmedovic, and then sometimes they play around with Firdaus Kasman and another player. And that's where I think they're lacking a strong defensive mid in the mold of Farah. Who's sitting on the bench for Tampines. And in transition also another problem for them. In transition they're always lacking, someone who can do the work, the dog work, so to speak. And I think that's where they're lacking as well. And at the back, with the young players, Yamashita has been great, but they've got to pull those young players together, like Adam Brifdi. How old is he, by the way? I'm not that sure. So very young players at the back, right? Yeah, exactly. You know, they're prone to make mistakes. They're always prone to be making mistakes at the back. But yeah, I think a defensive mid. But apart from that, I think Tampines, in terms of going forwards, the flow of play is brilliant.
They are good players, by the way. These players that we mentioned, Adam Rifty, Ryan Shanizal, they have very good potential, and that's why I expected more out of Tampines.
Okay, a player who was a star, who's been a star for Tampines the last 2 seasons, 𝘀𝗽𝗃𝗃. He's up there in the goal-scoring charts, along with 𝘀𝗽𝗃𝗃 Tanaka and Nishiguchi, as we mentioned earlier. These 3 strikers have set the league on fire this season. Shasi, talk about what these 3 strikers bring and how different they are. Even though the end product is the same, the kind of different approach they have.
Yeah, I think these 3, you can look at them and you know that they are 3 different kind of players, right? 𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃, big, strong, tall, but he's not the kind of player who can take players on, right? So that his main strength is his power, and he can hold up play very well. And we've got Tanaka, who feeds on scraps sometimes, the rebounds, like the one he did the last game as well, but he can shoot very good technically on the ball as well, so a good player. And of course he has done well because of Tadanarili behind him as well. Tadanarili has dropped off and played the provider, and then Ryo Nishiguchi, he's like a one-man wrecking ball for Tanjong Pagar, right? And without him, I fear for Tanjong Pagar. You know, we all fear for. Without his goals, I don't know. I think they could be like, near the foot of the table. So very strong. You can count on him to do to score a solo goal. But all 3, very, very good season.
Jerome, what would you say about his 3 if you had to pick a striker for, let's say, the Real Manager, SPL Real Manager, which is our fantasy league? Which striker would you take?
I mean, for right now, we look at the goal contributions between the 3. I mean, for Nishiguchi, 12 goals with 4 assists in his games. 16 goal contributions is nothing to be ashamed of. And for Boris, I mean, 15 goals, I think about 4 assists, if I'm not mistaken. And only 1 penalty goal. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick 𝘀𝗽𝗃, because he can score any type of goal. I mean, we saw the goal against LCS. I mean, what a finish, left foot volley right into that corner. I think no one expected that. I mean, for me, I kind of like that striker who is able to do everything, running behind. He has scored headers also, unbelievably, only being at like 176, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, I probably take 𝘀𝗽𝗃, to be honest.
And I would say, if you're talking about Real Manager as well, you look at the service, you know that he's going to be playing in a quality team for the rest of the season. He will get that service, and he's a regular starter, so he will keep scoring goals. Rio and 𝘀𝗃𝗃𝗃, their teams may struggle a bit with form, so that might affect them as well. Although on that same note, I would say don't sleep on Kim Shin-wook. I think 11 goals so far. Lestienne is now really getting into groove. Diego as well. I know they've rested Kim in many SPL games so far. But if everybody clicks into gear and if they go full tilt, I can see Kim Shin-wook grabbing a bag full of gold.
I think Sazali has hit the nail on the head there. We talk about these 3 players that we spoke about, and we need to speak about the team, the form of the teams that they're playing in. LBRX is one, so Tanaka could be running away with it soon. And then we look at LCS, Kim Shin-wook is slightly away, but with the run that they've been going on and the way they've been winning games 5-0, 6-0, and if he plays, he could get a hat-trick in 2 games maybe, and then he's up there as well. So I think you can't put it past him as well.
Staying on strikers, there's a striker we spoke about a bit earlier, Ilhan, moving to Albrechts, and he seems to be not in full fitness yet, but he seems to be hitting some form of form, especially getting a couple of games under his belt. Where do you see Ilhan this season?
I like him because, you know why? Because he has that composure in the last game. What a goal he scored, right? Just clipped it over the goalkeeper like he wasn't there. But, I think the main thing about him is he's going to a club where he's going to improve. We talk about everything, the system there, the way they train, the attitude and the commitment that's shown, and playing around these players, technically brilliant players, and he's always gonna get a goal from somewhere. The assist, the assist and the service, should I say, has been excellent for Albrecht. So I think he will definitely do well.
Sas, I want to come to you first before we get Jerome's thought on this. We've seen Ilhan train with when Fandi was coach of Lions 12 when he was a small boy, and you've seen the growth right now. What kind of player do you think he will become, or he has the potential to become?
I think, it's a measure of his quality that he has come into Albrecht and he has fitted seamlessly. You can see his understanding, people say players don't need to speak the same language, to play in the same team. And I guess he proves it, he links up so well with his teammates, the understanding, the movement, the off the ball, and he's already getting it. And it's so early into his career with 𝘀𝗲𝗋, and I'm really, really excited to see how many more goals he can get for the rest of the season. I think he can be a very good striker. I obviously a lot more focus, in the last 5 to 7 years has been placed on his brothers 𝘀𝗀𝗋 and Irfan. And at one point he sort of lacked physically a bit behind his brothers, but now you can see he's really shot up. In the last couple of years, really shot up. He's put on a bit of weight as well, and his quality is there. As Shasi said, that the last game, that finish is a really, really classy finish. So I'm really excited. I think he can be a really good striker with 𝘀𝗀𝗋 for Singapore in the years to come.
Jerome, what do you make of Ilhan so far?
I mean, ever since he seems rejuvenated ever since he went over to 𝘀𝗀𝗋, because I feel that the pressure is off him, because usually when he was at Young Lions, you could feel that he was trying to do as much as he could for the team and stuff like that. But now with the support staff that he has, 𝘀𝗋𝗋 with 7 assists, 𝘀𝗀𝗃𝗃 5, and also Sugita with 5. I mean, everything is spread out within the team, so he's always going to get the opportunity to really bed in. And I think if he does well, it could, open up even more pathways for him, and we are all nothing but excited for him.
Looking forward to the second half of the season, I just want a quick opinion from all three of y'all. It looks like it's going to be a 2-horse race for the title, Lion City and 𝘀𝗋𝗋. 𝘀𝗋𝗋's trailing currently. Favourites, and who are the favourites to win this?
Sazali?
I mean, I think it's Sailors' title to lose, basically, and given their recent form and the quality of their squad, I don't see them losing it. So, I mean, even at this relatively early stage, which is just halfway, I don't see them, losing grip of.
I've always asked Roshan this: have Sailors hit their full potential?
I still don't think so.
No, I don't think so. The reason is because, and if I have a criticism of LCS, and LCS will win it this season, right? But if I have a criticism of them, is that they don't play with the same fluidity throughout 90 minutes. That is my only, and again, we are clutching at straws here, right? But, and I think Kim Do-hoon as well expects that of his team. He's not going to tell his team to relax and whatever. So the last game where they trashed their opponents, I thought they were almost there, because I think from start to finish they were great. Our work rate was superb, and you talk about Maxime Lestienne working his socks off, and the foreigners, Lopez, working his socks off as well for the team. There's hard work as well as quality, and if I have that criticism of them, they should go all out from the first to the last minute, because they've got players on the bench who can come in, do a job, and do the same job as well in terms of quality. So that's the only thing. But apart from that, I think they are going to steamroll a couple of teams as well along the way, the so-called lesser ones, and then, 𝘀𝗀𝗋𝗋 will come close, but LCS all the way.
Jerome, what about you? What do 𝘀𝗀𝗋𝗋 have to do to overcome that gap right now?
I mean, right now, 6 wins on the bounce, basically, and I think they just need to continue this form. With Ilhan on the form that he is on, and you got Sugita, 𝘀𝗀𝗃𝗃, and everybody else supporting him, I think, it'll be a very interesting title race leading up to the end. I think it'll be a matter of defense. I think that's where it will be won. And LCS, of course, with Hassan Sani in goal, I mean, absolutely fantastic still. 39 saves in, I believe he's only not started in 2 games. So, I mean, can throw it to him, to be honest. He can make save after save. I just saw the one against Young Lions. Absolutely fantastic.
And while obviously I appreciate that kind of save from Hassan, it does raise the question, should a team that is so dominant like Sailors be conceding chances like that? And that is my critique of them not being right where they want to be yet, because I feel there are some sloppy moments still at the back for Sailors, and they rely on Hassan to bail them out. And yes, he has bailed them out many a time this season. I think they have to cut that out and be a bit more polished in defense, and I think they can do it as the season progresses.
So you all agree that Sailors are going to march to the title?
Yeah. Maybe not much.
Oh yeah, that's why famous last
Sail
word.
to the title.
Sale, sorry, Sale,
I
yes,
can
with the
bet
team.
some Albrecht fans will be clipping this, and then after that, this is what you guys said now, and then
No, but having said that, right, I think Albrechts are a good team, man. I love watching them play. And tactically as well, if you see them press the way they press, excellent. You know, the first press and then the second group of players behind them, you know, they know how to really do it in terms of covering spaces and all, and teams can't come out, you know, when they play against Albrechts. And, you know, technically, very good team.
At match week 15 in the Singapore Premier League, Young Lions are up against Geylang International on Friday, while Albrechts Negata will play Tanjong Pagar in a tasty clash at the Jurong East Stadium. On Saturday, Balestier Khalsa face Tampines Rovers, while the Lion City Sailors host Hougang United at the Jalan Besar Stadium. And from those fixtures, we've picked the Albrechts Negata versus Tanjong Pagar clash as our feature game of the week. Join John Dykes and Shasi Kumar as they build up to kickoff. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. So that's all the time we have for this week's episode. Thanks, guys, for joining us and giving us your opinions. Thanks to the viewers as well. Don't forget, you can catch all the SPL action live on our YouTube channel. Till next time, goodbye.